Doom Eternal is not only one of the best first-person shooter games I've ever played, it is one of the best video games I've ever played, period. The pulse-pounding action, the intensity, the masculinity, the visuals, the scale, the violence, and the soundtrack. My god, the soundtrack. The campaign is a marathon and a sprint at the same time. The missions are so relentless, so in your face, that I probably broke out in sweat, especially when playing on Nightmare. All the levels in this game are sick. The backdrops, the scale, and the attention to detail are some of the finest I've ever seen. Even though most of the levels have similar gameplay, figuring out where to go, platforming, balls to the wall arena fights, and the occasional boss fight, they differ in their pace and in their layouts. Some levels, like Super Gore Nest, feature classic Doom level design, while others, like Urdak, feel very unique to Doom Eternal. Nevertheless, some levels I found to be better than others, so here is my list, ranked from worst to best. I hope you enjoy. At number 13, I chose Hell on Earth. Now, this mission certainly isn't a bad level, it just isn't as epic as the others. It's the first level of the game, and it mainly serves as a springboard and a tutorial. The level doesn't take its time getting into the action, though. After a brief intro cutscene, you immediately gain control of the Slayer. After a minute or two of finding your way, you're thrust and locked into your first big arena fight. It isn't too challenging yet, as you're mostly just fighting the game's fodder, but you quickly get a sense that this is what the game is all about. Balls to the wall action. After the fight, you watch through the Slayer's eyes as he brutally annihilates the first Hell Priest. You begin feeling what the developers want you to feel like, an uncompromising, godlike badass. You begin traversing a hellish, apocalyptic cityscape. The mood stays consistent throughout. It is probably the game's shortest level, although playing it for the first time could still take you a while. All in all, it is a great first level that does a good job at what it's meant to do, introduce you to the insane game of Doom Eternal, but it lacks the visuals, scale, and gameplay that most of the other levels offer. At number 12, we have Sentinel Prime. Like Hell on Earth, this is another one of the game's shortest levels. There isn't a single fight here until you get to the boss fight at the end, which is the main part of the level. The first half of the level is more cinematics than gameplay. The cutscenes depict the distant past where you fought against hordes of opponents at what looks like a coliseum. The constant rip and tear lines symbolize the game perfectly. This is the game's best effort at storytelling, and it does it compellingly, although I still didn't really get what was going on. After finding your way, you are eventually pitted against the Gladiator. He's figuratively and literally a beast, smashing you with his shield and a chained spike ball. In Phase 2, he goes berserk, attacking you quickly and relentlessly, but we all know who he's dealing with. You're the Slayer, and he isn't. He might as well be a bug on your windshield. While the cutscenes are immaculate, there just isn't much here to warrant this level being higher than number 12. The boss fight is certainly memorable, although I think it pales in comparison to the game's later fights, especially the Khan Maker and the Icon of Sin. Terrace Nabad is up next at number 11. This level can be summed up in one word: tough. Making its debut here is the Archvile, a demon who can summon an infinite amount of enemies until it is killed. The fights here are absolutely brutal. You face multiple marauders, what feels like hordes of pinkies at the same time, pain elementals, doom hunters, pretty much the entire Hell Armada. But it's not the level's difficulty that puts it this low. First, it's the constant underwater sections. On my first playthrough, I must have died 10 times to the water alone. It's too much. Also a problem was the first fight against the Archvile, as I first thought a buff totem was active, but after searching for so long, I finally gave up, shot a BFG shot in the air, which luckily killed the Archvile. This level is the best at one thing though: secrets. They are extremely tricky. Some involve punching cracks in statues that are barely visible. Another, probably my favorite in the game, is barely visible while falling down a long shaft, requiring a precise dash performed in freefall. The last fight is extremely fun. The game throws everything at you, but you have so much crucible ammo it hardly matters. Overall, it's a good level, but some small frustrations unique to it hold it back. Number 10 is the second Necroval mission. This level continues Necroval Part 1's brutally dark nature, especially in the first half. Not unlike other levels like Doom Hunter Base and Ark Complex, the action starts immediately. It's a steady climb upwards, which gives it an ominous vibe. I began fearing what was at the top. It's the game's third to last level, so the fights are as tough as you'd expect, though I found them to be not quite as challenging as those in Part 1. The level gets better halfway through though, as the setting is changing. The final fight is the highlight. The setting has changed completely. You finally reach the peak, and you're out of the depths and you're in the open. Make sure your sigh of relief is brief though, as the game spawns tyrants and doom hunters soon after you arrive. It's the mission's best fight by far. Overall, it's a level that seems like it's just meant to hype up the mission that follows it. It is one of the game's least memorable levels, unfortunately, and it's dwarfed by its sister mission before it. Number 9 is Exaltia. The mission is sort of a continuation from the gameplay of Hell on Earth, still serving as somewhat of a tutorial. You get the dash and blood punch here, 2 items used heavily for the rest of the game. What's different here is the level's scale and length. Upon entering the mission, you immediately get a sense of what Doom Eternal has to offer visually. The abandoned, destitute city of Exaltia. I felt much more alone at the start of this level than I did on Hell on Earth, strangely enough. It's bleak and dreary, the sky is grey, you're a long way from home. Stronger demons are introduced, which ramp up the game's fights significantly from Hell on Earth. The Hell Knight and the Revenant do not make things easy. It's the only level in the game that has a major environmental change. Halfway through, you are teleported into what looks like hell itself. The setting is now a fiery sky with huge ancient demons towering over you. The combat arenas begin resembling what you'll see for the rest of the game. Parts of the level feel like a maze, and it might take you a bit to find your way, not unlike classic Doom games. It's a good solid level, but the game is going to get much, much better. Number 8 is Necroval Part 1, perhaps the darkest and most sinister level in the game. It's the first half of a 2-part level, and I think it's superior to the second half. The setting is hell. You're in the later stages of the game, so the fights are brutal. The section where you're traveling in the cage and Hayden is describing the soul extraction process is dark, and that's an understatement. A highlight is the first part of the Soul Factory, where you must destroy the 4 eyeballs as pain elementals and other demons come for you. It is definitely a test, as some of the platforms lower into the lava and others have vents that shoot out flames. My favorite parts are the fights around the giant spiked pillars that you can interact with to crush demons stupid enough to be underneath. Without them, one fight in particular would have felt overwhelming. The level is solid, and I really don't have a single complaint. The setting is one of the darkest the game has to offer, and that is its standout strength. It just isn't quite as good as the ones above it. Cultist Base is number 7. By now you know what Doom Eternal is all about. You get the rocket launcher and super shotty here, making your arsenal nearly complete. The game is getting tough. The Mancubus, Whiplash, and shielded soldiers are all introduced. Some of the battles are insane here, especially on Nightmare. You're hot on the heels of Hell Priest number 2, and you're chasing him through a base in the Arctic. The best sections of this level are right before and after you get the super shotty. The drop into the pit was awesome on my first playthrough, sort of reminding me of the scene from the 2006 King Kong movie when they descend into the trench. Taking control of the Revenant to get the shotgun here is one of the most unique parts of the entire game. Then, of course, forcing him to present it to you afterward and thanking him by blasting him straight in the dome. Or at least that's what I did. I also love the part after that, where you enter a room with a bunch of pillars that can be broken to release random demons. It almost felt like a strange Mario Party minigame. The level's pace is excellent. It looks beautiful too, although I didn't personally find it as striking as some of the others. At number 6 we have Super Gore Nest, a level that could be straight out of classic Doom. Well, minus these graphics, of course. Even the name of the level itself is straight Doom. The level is sort of a maze and makes you backtrack quite a bit to find 3 required keys, blasting you with tough encounters along the way. One of the hardest and most memorable sections is early in the level when you need to destroy a buff totem and you must travel through a series of portals to find it. I could see how the constant trek through the level's numerous acid sections could frustrate some players, but I loved it. Figuring out where to go is a big theme here, and it's pulled off brilliantly. The ending of the level is unique, and reminded me of one of my all-time favorite games, Metroid Prime. A timer is set and you must escape the level as fast as you can. Tons of demons are spawned in your path, of course, and you must quickly decide whether to fight them or sprint past them. Super Gore Nest is this high on the list not only because it is a throwback to classic Doom, but also because it sports some of the best level design and exploration in the game. We're officially in the game's top tier of levels, as Ark Complex is quite a step up from Super Gore Nest. The pacing of this level is near perfect. Almost immediately after plummeting down an elevator shaft at the beginning, you're faced with a steady onslaught of demons, which doesn't seem to let up for minutes. Most of the level's fights take place in tight corridors, stairwells, and small rooms, which really test your movement and awareness. It's a pretty linear mission. You aren't stumped on where to go so much on this level. Its focus is combat, and even the platforming is limited. One of my favorite fights in the game takes place toward the middle of the level, in a big open room that almost reminded me of a hotel lobby. It's one of the level's biggest tests. hammering you with pinkies, whiplashes, cyber mancubuses, you name it. The best part about it though is the berserk power-up on the low ground in the middle. Immediately executing all enemies with your bare hands is one of the most exhilarating things this game offers. It's a tragedy that it appears to be the only such upgrade in the game. I will mention that one thing I hated though was the damn purple sludge water. I am not afraid to say it cost me quite a few lives, even on some of the lower difficulties. All in all, Ark Complex is an excellent level that trades exploration for tight-knit combat, of which it paces to near perfection. Final Sin, the granddaddy of Doom Eternal. This is the game firing on all cylinders and then some. If you liked games with a true grand finale, then this will be your favorite level. Combat-wise, the level is second to none. Remember when I said Terrace Nabad was tough? Well, Final Sin makes it look like a walk in the park. This is the Battle of the Alamo and you're Davy Crockett, except you can dash, double jump, and have the biggest gun ever conceived. You face hundreds of heavies and multiple versions of every super heavy. Marauders? Check. Doom Hunters? Check. Tyrants? Check. The devs know you're going to have a tough time though, so they give you plenty of BFG shots and crucible charges. Then there's the icon itself. On Nightmare, this is one of the most challenging bosses I've ever fought. I found its fist slam down move to be almost unavoidable. The second phase is even harder than the first, as you have way less cover and the attacks are even harder to dodge. It's a long and grueling onslaught, but persevere and you will prevail. I would be hard-pressed to argue with someone who insisted this mission was the best in the game, but even though it's probably the best combat-wise, it isn't the best in scale, visuals, and pacing, and that's why it's my number 4. Number 3 is Doom Hunter Base, one of the best levels of Doom Eternal. The setting is immediately awesome. You start off on some sort of cart, soaring through a tunnel at extreme speeds, and of course, demons are along for the ride. After you crush them all, you're shown your destination, an ominous demonic fortress. The fortress itself feels sort of like Cultist Base, only darker and more sinister. The music here is some of the game's best. It's in constant build-up, and that fits the level perfectly, as you're gradually being hyped up by the boss. The level teases the Doom Hunter as you progress, slowly showing it being constructed. There's quite a bit of platforming here, with some of it being challenging, especially when you must traverse the edge of an electrified building. I had some serious rage here, but I liked the challenge. You finally come face to face with the Doom Hunter and it's an all-out war. After you beat the first one, the game sends 2 more at you, and at the same time, because why wouldn't it? It's Doom Eternal. Doom Hunter Base has no weaknesses. The music, the pace, the tension, it sets the bar high. Mars Core is the most metal level in Doom Eternal, and that is why it's my number 2. It is fucking flawless. It is the most macho level in the game, and possibly in any video game ever. The soundtrack is top tier here. I mean, just listen to this. Need I say more? The scale and setting are some of the best in the game. Hearing
Warning, BFG 10,000 is fired.
And then seeing a flash of green light as it's fired had me shook. It's just so epic, especially in the fight where you're basically on top of it. The platforming sections on Mars are beautiful and offer some of the best visuals in the game. It's the best level at making you feel like a total badass, and that's something the game is clearly setting out to do. Everything just comes together here. I was so close to putting this level at number 1, but one mission might have it beat, ever so slightly. Urdak is the best level in Doom Eternal. From the moment your eyes grace the level's first few frames, you know you're in for a treat. The visuals here are astounding. It is the game's best level visually, bar none. The game's best and most challenging platforming sections are also featured here. Soaring through the boost rings at top speeds was probably more fun than it should have been. Some of it took me so many tries, especially the section where you have to shoot the green switch as you're in the air. Just like Mars Core and Doom Hunter Base, the mission sports some of the game's best music. But instead of intensity and heaviness, it's eerie and it's sci-fi. It's such a departure from everything else in the soundtrack, but it works spectacularly. It's also one of the game's most challenging levels. It's the second to last one in the game, and the devs have been done going easy on you for some time. Tyrants, Doom Hunters, Marauders, you already know they're all here. And finally there's the Khan Maker, my favorite boss fight in the game. It's not quite as grueling and demanding as the Icon, but man is it hard. Her attacks hurt and her minions are constantly on you. It gets harder as you weaken her, as the ground starts becoming electrified. It was a great challenge, and even after dying 10 times, I knew I could get it. All in all, Urdak is the best level in the game. It's got some of the top music, platforming, fights, scale, and visuals. It was the level that stuck in my head long after I beat Doom Eternal, and that's gotta mean something. So there it is. That's my order for Doom Eternal's 13 levels from worst to best. I love this game so much that it inspired me to make a video, something I have not done before. If you like the list or if you disagreed with it violently, feel free to comment. If I get some subscribers, you might see another video from me. Thanks for watching.